Stephen is a whole lot of building nerd. I can attest to that. As a sustainable building consultant, he's worked on projects for air quality, natural, healthy, green, sustainable, and every other building adjective you can make up. Stephen has worked and taught across North America on thousands of buildings over 2 decades. He's also the vice president of the OSBBC back in the day. So that's the OSBBC became the ONBC.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if we have our way, we'll eventually become some kind of Canadian thing. Anyway, that's, yeah. All right, without further ado.
Thank you, Tim. Grateful. Oh, don't clap until you've heard the talk. Come on, that's a lot of pressure. Thank you, everyone. I'm really grateful to be here. I am. And it's funny, people sort of coming up and having conversations with many of you, and people ask me what I do, and I'm like, well, it's complicated. For about 20 years, I've been a recovering straw bale builder, and this is actually this. So this is actually this space. That's actually what this is. I was part of the team that helped build Rotary Hall. And I'm grateful for that. I had to look on the plaque to figure out when. 2004. I'm old. I literally built this before some of you were born, and that really hurts. So that's really how I feel about that. I did do straw bale. I've been a blacksmith. I've just been following my passion. And I think, a quote that comes to my mind is, live like today is your last day, but learn like you will live forever. And something just resonates with me right to my core, because I'm a hardcore, a passionate learner. I wish I was when my parents were paying for it, but now it's all on my nickel. So yeah, I got a bunch of letters after my name because I just, people collect stamps, everyone needs to collect something. And for a while I was collecting letters. But I am a building biologist. So building biology is a German school of thought that looks at the built environment and how it interacts and impacts occupant and environmental health. And I've been teaching that with Paula Baker-Laporte. Some of you were here last year. Paula's just the most wonderful human being in the world, and a delight to teach with. And we've been doing that since, I think, again, really long time, 2008 or something. It was funny when Paula and I first started teaching together. I tell this because most of you remember we were here last year. I was like, I'm building nerd, she's a designer, we're basically equals. And then, of course, Paula starts showing all her amazing buildings. I'm like, I'm not an equal to Paula at all. I love her dearly. Part of that transition after I got out of straw bale was I got into healthy housing through the building biology. And I had my company, Your Healthy House, and I've been in some of your buildings because of that, and consulted with you on lots. Because I wanted to help the rest of the world. Right? The narrow slice that end up in the natural building isn't big enough, right? It's not. And we all want it to be bigger. But I realized that other people had homes that they loved and cared for and wanted to take care of. And so that's how I really sort of broadened into that. I got into faith communities because they're just really beautiful buildings, let's be honest. Especially, and even as someone who's agnostic, I happen to be a religious architect expert. I don't know how, but I do, because they're beautiful buildings, and to crawl around in them is a real treat. And it was during that period when I started really getting into faith community buildings that I realized the older ones are all natural. And that's what today's going to be about. You say tomato, I say tomato. So we're going to have a conversation about heritage and natural. And so, are we compatible, snuggly friends, or are we not compatible, fighting each other? And I'd really like to point out that when Googling two people fighting, it came up with boys, and two people as hugging friends came up as girls. So I just want to put that out there because boys are dumb. I'm married. I have 2 daughters. I'm very well trained. So. But I thought that was just a hilarious observation, for sure. This is when we talk about heritage as a capital H heritage, this is what you think of. All right, when we talk about heritage, you're like, oh, I'm thinking about Lang Pioneer Village, Black Creek Pioneer Village, little old ladies wearing bonnets. It is 1874 and nothing else. All right, that is capital H heritage. Okay? The church in the bottom, Cape Breton, absolutely magnificent, is a capital H heritage building. It's gorgeous. But here's capital H heritage problem. Can you put a wheelchair ramp and an accessible door in a capital H? Well, you're not supposed to, because you impact the capital. Well, that's stupid, of course, because if they're not worshiping in there, or if they're not living in there, then it's empty, and we lose the heritage. A heritage can be a building, it can be a structure, it can be a space and a place, but it can be a culture, it can be a feeling, it can be a community, okay? And so this capital H is often a shackles. It's perceived as shackles, okay? Because it's unobtainable, right? Or unmaintainable, oftentimes more the case. And so this capital H isn't really, it's that perception when someone says heritage. You're like, oh, the heritage professional. Oh, the hysterical society's involved. You know, we got to save this building. And yeah, we should save buildings, don't get me wrong. But capital H is a bit erroneous. And as a heritage professional, we're really trying to change that. This is also heritage. It is. Wartime housing. Absolutely. And Peterborough, you know, Lakefield area here, Peterborough, Trenton, I grew up in Trenton. Wartime housing. That's actually heritage. People live in that heritage. People love that heritage. Right? There's value, there's community, the spaces. We talked about design this morning with Melanie, amazing. These shapes and spaces are really, really beautiful. And of course, nerd level 9, Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, back in the day, known differently then, had a book, right? And the book had all these styles in them, and you could build them. And my grandpa built a couple down at the south end of Peterborough. This is also heritage. This is my house here in Lakefield. Anyone's welcome to come over after if you want. I think because I'm going to buy a bunch of Doug's beer, we might work out okay. This house is actually 1910. It actually used to be down the street. In the 50s, they moved it to put in a gas station. And so I have a 1910 house on a 1950s basement, and 10 years ago we decided that we wanted to live there longer because it's a story and a half, 2 bedrooms. I have 2 daughters and a wife and 1 bedroom and 1 bathroom, and my closet was in the hall, right? So this is still heritage, right? This is small spaces. And so we did a major renovation and addition. I have R40 walls with 6 inches of outsulation rock wool because I'm a nerd, and we got through it because we actually lived in the building through 10 months of renovation because I picked the interior of the wall and my wife picked the colors on the outside and the inside, and that's how we stayed married. So it worked out really well, and that's why it's beautiful. But this is heritage. An existing building is heritage, except for the 1980s. They're just terrible, like just that was a dark time in construction. Those should be knocked down, absolutely. But the rest of them, the existing buildings are heritage. There's a value in that neighborhood. There's a value in that construction. Okay? Now, capital N natural, this is what everyone sees. We know this. There's the 3 little pig joke somewhere in there. But they're either seeing the Hobbit house or they're seeing hippie hippie shake shake here, right? We all know it's true because Tim has to stamp them, right? So we know it's true. But this happens. This is what we know this because I've lived it, you've lived it. Capital N. This is what we get. And you're like, oh, for the love of God, please. Like, this is not, yeah, totally, Hobbit house, cool, right? But that's not what we're about. Yesterday, we're talking about bio-based. Like, oh my, panelization. A lot has changed. A lot has changed, right? These are natural. All right, that's Glenn Hunter's house on the left, down in Bethany. Straw bale construction, absolutely modern. Paul Dowsett, the architect, did a great job. This is rammed earth in Gatineau. It's a bow technique. Sorry, the woman presenting this afternoon, if I had known that you were doing it, I would have put your picture up. I apologize. So we have this hippie house approach that we have to overcome. And I built hippie houses, and they're fun. But I've also, worked on places like that. And so we have to overcome this natural, capital N natural, to have conversations. All right, building official, he's like, yeah, what was I expecting the first time? And then in the end, he's like, yeah, let's put a stamp on it and get it done, right? When I did my renovation, my building official came out just to take pictures. He was like, cool, this is great, right? So it's about the conversation and the education. We both have levels of education to the general public because we are small scale as far as what we're doing, but we have greater impact, okay? So ultimately, our branding can suck, right? Our branding can suck. And that's tough because we're both aiming towards the same goals, the same values of trying to make things better, okay? Now, we both also really understand embodied energy. On the right, Buddy, what's his name? I think you guys have heard of Chris, coming up with some research. And there's lots of other folks doing research, of course, on embodied energy. We're really familiar with straw and hempcrete and cork. We're all about that, right? We're all about that in the natural. But I'm going to say that it's not, from a carbon perspective, Carl Elephant on the other side really has it. The greenest building is the one that is existing. So the heritage has got you a little up on that. Because it is. And the longer it stands, the longer the carbon is embedded, right? And we're stretching that impact out over years, decades, ideally centuries. Okay? Now, your buildings, and I'm taking the stand of heritage just to amuse myself more than anything. Your buildings can stand the test of time and can be here for hundreds of years and have with the low embodied energy together, right? Do we have to do renovations on the existing buildings? Well, of course we do, right? And that's where the combination, we understand this, and we're both fighting this. The heritage, we're strongly trying to get out there that existing buildings are important. We're not going to build our way to carbon neutral. We're not. It's not possible. We have to renovate our way. And the only way to do that is both of our skills. That's the only way that's going to happen. And so building science, because I can't have a talk without at least a couple building science slides. And I believe Paula probably used these exact slides, but we're going to spin it a little differently. This is how it just works, okay? This is just how existing building science is. Got a bunch of boxes, and they interact with the envelope. And the more we can keep those other things out, the outy things out and the inny things in, the better we're at, okay? The better this performs, supposedly. But we got a bunch of fossil fuels and supposedly clean water. We got EMR, electromagnetics, polluted water, all that kind of stuff, right? That's building as a system. It's a bunch of parts. It's not holistic whatsoever. It's the home despot. You can do it. We can help. Give us your credit card, right? That's it. It's assembly. Conventional green building is just minimizing the boxes. That's not doing anything. That's not changing the conversation. All they're doing is minimizing boxes, all right? And yeah, I'm LEED accredited. I got the certification so I could just argue with architects. I did. I have done things for spite, just for giggles. I'm that kind of guy. But this is how both of us see the building. This is how both of us see the building. It is an organism. It is an interaction and a conversation between the outdoor elements, the indoor elements, right? Vapor permeable, hygroscopic, okay? We get this. The natural building and the Heritage Building. We're vapor open. You want to put a vapor barrier behind a stone wall on a certain building on the second floor once you go up the stairs in the back? Personal conversation there, sorry. You will wreck that stone building in a heartbeat. A building that has been there for 200 years, you can destroy it with 6 mil poly. Just as fast as you can destroy this wall with 6 mil poly. We get it. All right? We get it. And heritage buildings about, seriously, dude, like, why are you putting the spray foam? Like, spray foam. Like, just, ugh. I hate, you know there's spray foam lawyers in the US? There's a whole spray foam. So it's really both of us are on the same page. Heritage buildings need to operate this way. We need natural finishes. We need natural materials. We need natural building solutions to maintain and continue the existing building, because otherwise it will die. We are on the same page when it comes to building science. Now, the Willow Green Building Council's Health and Wellbeing Framework. Cool framework. It is. Now, we could walk around this whole circle here. Take climate action. Yeah, check. Right? Protect health. Yeah, that's what we do. Both of us. Prioritize comfort. Right? Like, why else would you build this, right? Comfort. They're magnificent. Harmony with nature. Yeah, we checked that. We built the harmony. We built that. We did that. Facilitate healthy behavior. Well, all right. Well, like, you know, you can still have some messed up rabbit houses, some of you there. So, create social value. That is definitely what both are doing. If you were to think of a heritage building, you're thinking of like a class field trip to a pioneer village, right? That's social value. If you're thinking of your weekend tour, that's social value. We're doing the same thing. We just went around the circle. We're on the same page. And it's really important to sort of hammer that home. So, how's training going in the big world of heritage and natural? Well, in the top left, we have Algonquin College's Heritage Carpentry and Joinery program. Hands raised, please. Grads, look around, look around. Shout out to Isabel. She's here today. She is just about to graduate. Looking for work, and she's potentially moving to Peterborough area, folks. Make sure Isabel gets a job. The rest of them are in the Perth area, also looking for work. That's Algonquin's Heritage Carpentry and Joinery program. Top right, St. Lawrence College's Stone and Masonry program. Okay, I don't think do we have anyone from there? No graduates? Any Masons? The bottom, these are all provincial level training. Fleming College's Sustainable Build Design program. So what do they all have in common? Whoops, oh, I got too excited there. Yeah, they don't exist anymore, unfortunately. Okay, the masonry program was canceled outright last month. There is no masonry program that teaches stone masonry in Ontario. Literally, the limestone city no longer has a masonry program. Algonquin College, Heritage Carpentry and Joinery program, they have sadly stated they will close it. Luckily, the graduates currently in there will be able to see through, but they're closing it. And it's got nothing to do with the students in there. It's got nothing to do with the outcomes. It's got nothing to do with any of that. It's got something to do with international students that has nothing to do with this. Fleming program, well, that's a different conversation, folks. We all know that was tough when it closed. Now, these are the provincial programs. I want to give a shout out to Willowbank School of Restoration Arts in Niagara on the Lake. They're one of the few. We have one graduate, one person in it. Raise your hand. No, please. Anyone else from gone through Willowbank? So if you don't know what Willowbank is, it's pretty frickin' cool. All right? They teach heritage trades. All of them. Like literally from planning and design They do blacksmithing, they do stained glass, they do joinery, they do finishes, they do paints, they do everything. And they get to work on a beautiful building, right? And if you want to know a bunch of stuff, Adam knows a little bit about it. And the reason Adam knows a little bit about it is because his father actually made that happen, right? Adam comes from good stock. You guys should take care of Adam. He's a good guy. But we have these programs, right? And so in Ontario, these trade programs run by provincial colleges don't exist. And that sucks. That sucks for the people who went through it. That sucks for the people trying to find skilled people. Remember what was yesterday? The problem? Skills, 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 and more skills. And good job closing the schools. On a scale of 1 to stupid, that ranks really high. So we both have this problem, okay? Yeah, the Carpentry 101 program, yeah, that's still running, right? Because the Apprenticeship Ontario funds that pretty heavily. But we're talking about not just Carpentry 101, we're talking about skills. Real skills, right? And those of you who plastered a wall know what I'm talking about. That's not straightforward. That's not just like, here, Lumpy, take the trowel and do that curve for me, please. That's not how that works. It takes practice. It takes skill, right? It takes skill. There are some cool kid clubs to hang out in. This is one. It's a cool club, right? The Canadian Association of Heritage Professionals, that's a cool club, right? And then in America, the Association of Preservation Technology International. So APT is actually a really cool club, and I'm not even a member, and I can say that. They have some really cool resources. The Canadian Association of Heritage Professionals with National Trust, we run yearly conferences. They're pretty big, like 400 to 700 people big, depending if every 3 years APT jumps in, it gets humongous. But we don't have the voice, right? That was yesterday talking about the voice. How do we get the voice out there? Hello, from the back of Home Depot. Stop buying lumber inside a building. Like, stop it. If you store lumber inside, don't buy that lumber. Seriously. We're a small voice, but we need to work together to make our voices louder because we're on the same path with the same skills and the same talents and the same goals. All right? So there is a National Trust Conference. It's in Halifax this year, CAP and National Trust. It's in Halifax in November, I think. So if you're looking for an excuse to go to Halifax, that'll be pretty cool. That'll be pretty cool, right? But how do we? But I'll tell you the problem with that one. There's no tradespeople there, hardly ever. It's mostly those architects and engineers. You know that lot. But it's hard. Who would like to learn a proper trowel technique or how to point a stone foundation? Right? We have to take workshops. Who was at the Kingston Lime Slam? Right? So some masons in Kingston just like, screw it, we're going to do it. And so they put together a lime slam, talking about lime mortar. There was tequila, but that's different. So, you know, we're at the point where we have to do a lot of it ourselves. Right? This guy's like, this is a priority. This woman's like, this is a priority. I'm going to make this happen. And we want that to happen. But it's just frustrating because we feel like we're just voices, you know, screaming in the wind some days. So what is this? Is this a heritage building or a natural building? Yes. Well, it depends when we built it, huh? It depends when we built it. All right? And this is how I don't want to use the word epiphany, it makes me sound all hoity-hoity, but I was at a National Trust conference, and there was a gentleman from Ireland giving a presentation on a building he was restoring, and he was talking about how he was restoring wattle and daub. And he kept using, this historic, this historic, this historic, and I'm like, at the end of it, I'm like, dude, that's natural. Like, we don't have the history here. We don't. So it's just new to us, and we're doing it. And it's super fun. This is the exact same thing. All right? I will stand side by side with you and fight for this. Every single inch of this building is both of us. Okay? Every single inch of this is both of us. We are not separate. We are on a continuum of time. I'm protecting what's there. You're building new. That's the only difference. All right? There is no difference between heritage and natural. None. Zero. It's just a timeline. Okay? And am I going to call in, Joe with truck and hammer to fix this, or am I going to call you in? I'm going to call you in because I need the skills. Okay? This is all of us. This is all of us. You are not alone. We are not. The heritage is not alone. We are all in this together. We are one and the same. New construction. Hopefully the wood is dry on the cordwood there. We heard yesterday about the cordwood not being... we are on a continuum. Okay? Brickwork, masonry, detail work, stone work. Doing masonry work over on the left. Right? We're doing timber frame. There's timber frame in this building. Right? We're using natural finishes. And yeah, I actually do a bit of work with Sage. I'll give a shout out to Sage. I don't have a problem with that. Helping them with training, moving forward on a project, hopefully. When I was natural building, and I got into, my company, Your Healthy House and consulting, those guys had started up in Kingston. Those of you remember that, a long time ago, under a different name. And they were like, the natural building world, that's our jam, right? And I was like, yeah, natural building world, that's my jam. And over the years, and I've known them all this time, since I first started, they're like, yeah, so the heritage. I'm like, yeah, the heritage, right? And we're like, yeah, it's like the same group, just different badges. That's it. That's it. And so their transition, both natural and heritage, they're one of Parks Canada's major suppliers for all the buildings across Canada, all the heritage buildings. That paint is going on the windows on Parliament Hill, right? And you guys are like, that paint's cool. I can put that on this project because it's the same. The values are the same, folks. The values are the same. So it's just a conversation to just really think about opportunities. What are the opportunities? Well, there's actually a renovation market. I don't know whether you guys are aware of. I know you're all like, yeah, I got to build new, I got to build new. That's what I do. Now, this is the American. This is an American. This is 256.5 billion square feet of residential stock. But this split is the same for Canadian. The split is between residential and commercial. The split's the same for the Canadian market. Almost 10% of the Canadian residential building stock is pre-1948. Yeah. There's about 14% that's the 80s, and again, that one should be demolished. I cannot stress that enough. My parents lived in a late 70s bungalow, and for roof decking, it wasn't even OSB, it was paneling. Like wall paneling? Like, that was actually the roof decking. And you could actually jump from bay to bay with the spring in your step. The 80s were a dark time. Really, really were. Some terrible construction. But when we're looking at 10% pre-1946, then there's still value in some of the 50s and 60s homes. It's at that point really, well, what happened was pre-World War II, everything's natural. Everything is natural, 1930s and before that, everything's natural. Okay? It's wood, lath and plaster, stones, bricks, all of it. It's all natural. Okay? World War II, factories were making weapons of mass destruction. Post-World War II, factories began making weapons of mass construction. That's what happened. That's what happened. The whole industry changed, right? That's where, the 16-inch wallboard came out, but that's also where plastic came out. It's also where all vinyl came out, right? And so, post-World War II, that's why sort of Statistics Canada stops at 46, because after that, the houses started having more was wood, right? Particle board, vinyl, all those plastics, all those started coming in place. And so it had a really, really big impact. And so those homes are quite a challenge from a health perspective, but also from a quality, right? From a durability perspective. So there's a huge market here. There's an absolutely massive market of renovations. Here's a fact I want you to process. In 2050, almost 80% of the buildings in 2050, I want you to imagine 2050, flying ships, the whole bit, whatever you got. In 2050, 80% of the buildings that are in 2050 are standing here today. 80% of the buildings in 2050, when we're carbon neutral, we've saved the planet, everyone gets superhero capes. Fuck, I hope so. 80% of those buildings are here today. We're renovating our way out of this. We have to. And I need your skill sets to do that, because I need the low embodied carbon renovations, additions. That's what we need. Because I don't need the guy with truck and hammer and spray foam coming in to fix a building. I don't need that. I don't want that. We have to renovate our way. Your skill set is mission critical to the survival of the planet. Thanks for taking that on. The point being is you actually have the solution. You know you have the solution. You're already doing it. But you can actually also apply your solution elsewhere. And that's something to keep in mind. Okay? That's something to really keep in mind. And all of these are healthy. Okay? All of these are healthy solutions. Okay? I will take a 1920s house over a 1970s house any day of the week from a health perspective. From the building itself, occupants impacts, well, people are stupid, but I think really when we're looking at a building as an envelope, absolutely, I will take an older building every single time. Every single time. From a health perspective, I have less chemicals, less adhesives, less glues, less any of that. And so we're creating healthy buildings. And that's, for those of you building biology, that's what it's about, right? Low embodied, low carbon, low impact. If it's good for the planet, it's probably good for the people. And if it's good for the people, it's probably pretty good for the planet, right? And so it's really mission critical that we understand those values, okay? What else do we have in common? Yeah, this. We have craft. We have craft. You are craftspeople. Each and every one of you working on the building. Craftspeople. Okay? That's something we don't give ourselves credit for. We don't at all. I'm a natural builder. Some of you, enough gray hair, you call yourselves craftspeople, and that's great, you should. But we're all about craft. I think there was some people and some conversations after the panelization, not that there was anything wrong with panelization, but some people are like, where's the craft in that? Right? Where's the creativity? Right? Thank you, Melanie, for showing me that I don't have a lot of creativity. I appreciate that this morning. It's a hard act to follow. But we get it, right? We're creatives. That's what we do. All right? This is what but we use that term craftsperson. You're like, oh, that's like the blacksmith. Oh, that's the, crown molding detail that someone spent hours, 120 years ago. No, you're craftspeople. You're craftspeople as well. Right? I saw some of those 5x5. Okay, a couple, not maybe they were a little different, but some of those 5x5s, there were some craftspeople there, right? I'm just goofing. We get this. How many people have spent money on a tool that they didn't tell their significant other about? Yeah, exactly. That's a craftsperson right there. That is actually probably the proper definition of a craftsperson. I've literally hidden them from her. She has no idea. That's the difference, right? We can all nerd out when the Lee Valley catalog comes in or whatever, right? We get the craft. We get the attention to detail because currently, natural building is mostly custom building, right? And with heritage, I can tell you every single building is different. Every single building is different, and it's sort of like a game and more like a surprise puzzle, because when you open it up, you just have no idea what's behind the wall. None, right? And so why did they do that? You know, and that, for me, that's fun. I enjoy that. Right? I did worked with a church in Windsor, Nova Scotia, built by shipbuilders, actually. Beautiful building. And so wood-sided, you know, normal wood-sided, big, you know, triosauruses, you know, for the exterior wall. The interior wall was this far away from the exterior wall. There was a whole second set of studs, framing, and a whole interior wall. They were not connected whatsoever to each other. Not in the slightest. And I'm like, what are you doing? Right? These are the games. These are the games. Right? And that's interesting. Now, in that case, they wanted to spray foam that fire channel, which was a serious concern, and I strongly objected and almost called the fire department on them because of it. But that was different. That's another story. It's just, we have craftspeople who thought a process through and decided to do that process, whether it made sense to anyone else or not. And you've all done dumb things. Well, I can speak from experience and scars. We've all done dumb things. But it's leading to craft. It's that experimentation that leads us to craft. It's that process, an iterative process, that takes us to a place where we know how to do something ourselves. That's the difference between craft and assembly. Assembly is you're doing one piece of the puzzle. You're putting those little bow ties into the cute little panels. That's your bow tie job. Boop, boop, put the bow ties in. Craft is making a wall. And that's a difference. And you should celebrate that and revel in that and push back on the architects sometimes. We need to celebrate craft traditions. Who wasn't excited about the reopening of Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris? All right? Absolutely magnificent. They celebrate craft, all right? Right? They get it. They understand it. And the Campagnons, the amazing workforce. I think some of you have seen, we were talking, we've seen talks. There's a guy near Perth who's a Campagnon, who's like done this stuff, like super crazy cool. Craftsman Excelsior, basically. And the Campagnon schools are just bonkers, amazing cool. They had to make these models that were slightly more complicated than the rabbit ones for their final projects. Just gorgeous stuff, real craftspeople. But seeing young people in these photos, that's encouraging. We need to celebrate that, all of us. Celebrate that craft, recognize that craft. And beyond just us, we're the echo chamber. 5 by 5, great, great. Good job, you, good job, you, good job, you. We need to get that out there. I want to see it in Fine Home Building. I want to see it on the Home Builders Association website. Shake those guys up. They need a friggin' shaking, because they're all about focusing on new construction and just one way to do it, right? We need to celebrate the crafts. It is mission critical, okay? Because we're on this journey together. We're on this journey together because we see the same things, we have the same goals, we have the same purpose, and we have the same values. It's really important to keep that in mind. So I have a suggestion. I don't know, you guys talking about name changes and joining other cults and stuff like that. Maybe we should start a new cult, because we're on the same path, right? And so reaching out to heritage professionals, tradespeople, heritage tradespeople, sharing knowledge, sharing ideas, working together, we're on the same path. And there's a bigger group of us than you think right now. And that's what's exciting. And I can tell you from the heritage side, people are like, who am I going to find? Who am I going to find? Well, you're here. And so finding those heritage professionals where you live, I think is really critical. There's a whole opportunity for you, from a business perspective, to be working on traditional buildings, heritage buildings. There's a whole opportunity for your skill set to make money working on those buildings and to partner with heritage professionals. All right? I was taken right there. That's what I got, guys. Thank you. Yeah, so I'm super. I finished early. Yeah, totally. I'm finished early.
Just before, Patrick Moore is the name of the
yes, thank you.
South of Ottawa. There, he's doing some amazing work on Parliament, the Parliament buildings. But he also there's some exterior work. If you go down whatever the street that Parliament is on, across the street at one of the, I think it's actually across from one of the archive buildings or something. There's a really amazing accessibility ramp with multi-curved roof that he did, and if you're interested in that style of joinery, he does courses on stereotomy.
Yes.
Which is just this absolutely
bonkers
visual way of laying out joinery in wood. It's
yep.
incredible. He's a guild member in Print Guild, and he comes in. Yeah.
What's his name again?
Patrick Moore.
Yeah. Stereotomy. If you search stereotomy,
yeah.
Just set aside another hour.
Yeah.
Like.
Exactly.
Because you won't come back. It'll change your life. Absolutely. Yeah.
There was another connection that I wanted to. It'll come to me. So in the meantime, if people have questions or comments or yeah.
I'm going to do a heritage plug. Right now, our building has been shortlisted for something called the Last Great Save in Canada.
Yep.
So if you can go online and vote for Willowbank, it means we can have a fire escape and use our third floor.
So that is the National Trust has an annual competition for the Great Next Save, and they have I think a dozen buildings, and you get to vote online. And if you pick whichever one gets the most votes, it's all about popularity. They get money. Willowbank National Trust, Next Great Save, and yeah, totally Willowbank. There's some churches in there, but you should totally check it out. Yep.
Well, it sounds like it would open up a whole third floor, right?
Yeah, so you can have more students.
Yeah. So that's.
We can have our drafting studio back because that's the best lighting. And it means the students actually have the opportunity to work up there because right now we're technically not allowed because it's so yeah, it would be amazing. Plus, we are a school that teaches heritage, so what better way to invest in heritage than to invest in the school? And that's my advertising.
Yep, but it's great advertising. And I would also say that, you know, your provincial member of parliament should really hear about what you think about trades training.
Yeah.
Right?
That's a very good idea.
Right? Because, you know, Isabel and the folks from Perth, from the Algonquin campus, like that's a gut punch of skilled people. And so, and the St. Lawrence College as well. So, and that is not just in Ontario. When we look coast to coast, there's one heritage carpentry program in all of Canada. That's in Holland, Prince Edward Island. Josh Silver's running that program. It's a great program. It's oversubscribed because it's the choice. So please reach out to your member of provincial parliament and yell at them that skilled trades like ours is important.
Well, I wanted to, I remember the thing, it's about renovations. So I'm a member of the Ontario Structural Wood Association, mostly because I do QC for truss plants. It's one of my gigs that pays money that anyway. And there's every year that we have that AGM, they bring in a guy who's an economist, and they give him like 2 hours, and he uses the time, and he's actually great. Peter Norman of the Altus Group. I never thought I would shout out to an economist. He's really great. And one of the things he loves to say to the room every year is that the market in Ontario and in Canada for renovations is bigger than the market for new build. It just is. It's about 60% of construction money in Ontario every year is spent on renovations.
Yep.
So it's already a bigger chunk of the pie. And he likes to, because I mean, you can still put trusses on a renovation or an addition,
Yep.
you know, but the truss guys are all about, they want a new build.
Yep.
They want the whole package.
Yep.
So.
And it's that renovation market that's, you know, unregulated in a sense that, you know, I drove around with one building official. We were on a job, a building official and I, and across the street there's a guy with a truck and a saw off the back, and he's like, well, I don't think I know that one. Yeah. And he was like, I'm gonna go pay him a visit. Totally. Yeah. Was there a question? Yeah, please.
What are some strategies when it comes to talking about renovations, high performance, stuff that's kind of the passive style that we're trying to do?
Yeah.
And and then there's people that we meet that are about spray foam, about poly sheets and stuff like that. What are some strategies when it comes to just conversation about trying to gear? Like, we don't want to be like, no, hey, you know,
Yeah.
but, or maybe we do, like, as a consultant interacting with all spectrum.
Yeah.
What are some strategies?
Yeah, it goes beyond just that dollars and cents piece. There is value in the cultural element of that house. We've seen some, I'll say brownstones, classic, you know, Danforth area, Toronto, avenues in Peterborough, just sort of, you know, the standard 1940s two-story brick house. And we've seen some ugly crap bolted on top from an egocentric architect. And not all architects are egocentric. You know, I'll be good. But we've seen that really insensitive approach to existing buildings. Your skill sets are having a sensitive approach. As designers, as consultants, as engineers, can have sensitive approach to the design itself. From the sustainability perspective, it's the embodied carbon piece. And from the heritage perspective, we are massively trying to ramp that concept up. CAP, Canadian Association, we got a Code Accelerator Fund grant. And it's all about embodied energy. Like, we're trying to put that front and center, literally, ideally, moving towards code. Because if all of us had embodied energy in the code, we'd all be exceptionally busy. So I think that conversation is really important when we're talking about that. And now there's data, and Chris, you guys all know Chris's data, and there's lots of others. Chris isn't the only one doing that. He just happens to be who you know. I think that piece is becoming more conversational. 5 years ago, it wasn't. I remember the Athena Institute. Do you remember that old guy outside of Ottawa? You know, like decades ago, just like carbon. You know, and this old guy's making this program, like, you know, like literally, I think wires. He was, you know, like he was really old school, and he was a great guy. And the Athena Institute eventually, you know, got big enough. But so we've known about this carbon piece. It's really important to talk about the embodied carbon. It's understandable to think that I need a peel-and stick as an air barrier. We don't. Great detailing from plasterers is an incredible air barrier. Okay? And so we have to simply look at the techniques that have been done for 100 years and realize that is high performance. We also don't take thermal mass, right? The WUFI models really can show us thermal mass performance. We're not looking at the thermal mass again. It's not in the code. And so the code is only about stick frame construction. That's it. Otherwise, Tim's got to stamp it, right? Or Adam's got to design something around it because it doesn't fit us, and it never has, and it's not designed for us. And so there are architects trying to change. There are people trying to change the code. I went to one code change meeting. This is a true story. We were working on an appendix about health, and it took us 40 minutes to get the wording that we need more time and money to sort this out. I kid you not, and that was the last meeting I ever went to. So for you code people, God, you're just good on you. That's not my game. But as we support these more natural materials and traditional finishes, we can make better performing buildings. So I'm delivering the United Church of Canada's National Decarbonizing Grant Program. super awesome. I get to talk to churches all over Canada, give them money, and tell them not to do stupid things. That's my job. With $30,000, typically a $30,000 to $45,000 investment, they're seeing a 20% drop. We're tracking the energy post retrofit. We're seeing a 20% drop in their overall energy footprint with like a 40 on a church. And so this scales. It could be a building this big, or it could be honking huge ones. So moving that needle isn't as difficult as we think. When we're looking at a renovation, like these are specifically energy details, but when we're looking at renovations or additions or something like that, we can move that needle. And that becomes the conversation. It's a sales pitch. If you're doing an addition and it's a nice natural addition, you know, I recommend you get an energy audit. Put a blower door in your building and it'll be snug as a bug your end. You bring the auditor Friday morning and you walk around your space and make sure it's good by lunch. But at the same time, you walk around the rest of the homeowner's building and you find all the other leaks. And then when the homeowner comes Friday afternoon, show them how good you are and what the rest is. And that's where you can make that, that's where financially, that's a business model. I went around the corner and I don't think I answered your question 100%. It's absolutely possible on an existing heritage building to make it high performance. I did. Mine's passive house. I have R40 walls, R100 in the attic. That rock wool went from the footings to the roof. All right? It's absolutely doable. It's slightly insane, but it's doable. It's just taking the time to think about it, and that's where our crafts piece comes in. It's all about devils in details.
Does the health piece help with those conversations? Are you finding that?
Everybody comes to sustainability for different reasons. I was American Standard's green building consultant for a while. True, when they launched the dual flush toilet, there's a brochure out there with my face and the dual flush toilet somewhere. My wife won't let me forget that. Well, yeah. Seriously. They came to it straight up for money because Toto was kicking their butt, because Toto had the dual flush toilet in North America first. People will come to sustainability for health. They'll come to it for the environment. They'll come to it because energy efficiency and they want to save money. I don't care how they come to the table. And building biologists, like we do this, we did it last week. Whereas Jen, this past week, Paula and I just did our training again this past week. It was online, which is why I'm able to be here. And we have these criteria of what is sustainable, right? That's a lot of beer conversation. What is sustainable? Because we all have, right? We all have that conversation, right? And so finding whether it's health, environment, climate change, just straight up nickels and dimes, I don't care how they come to us. Wheel them in. Wrap the web around them. Give them the red pill. And let's show them what we can do with it. That's the opportunity. Wow.
There is a code change committee now dedicated to alteration to existing buildings. There will be an alteration to existing buildings section in the national model code. If harmonization works, the provinces will all adopt it as well. But that is another opportunity for us to, at this point, I would say our opportunity is to wait until public review time, because that committee will send out a proposed change form of some kind. And if we have problems with it, if it isn't explicit that they shouldn't just spray foam stuff, because that's going to, so the first priority is operational energy. That's the lens. The next is going to be embodied energy.
Yep.
Of materials. That's coming. But there's the possibility that a bunch of code mandated renovations are going to be focusing on energy efficiency, and the default is going to be two-part polyurethane spray foam.
Yep.
Right? Like,
absolutely.
So, it's not a public. So public review, you can just make that comment. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out a way that we could make that in a proactive way. So yeah, you guys can help me with the proactive comment like that. It's still a little while before public review. The first public review I think it's October will be the first public review. of this coming code cycle. I don't know how many of this code cycle's pieces are going to be in there. It'll probably be leftover from the last code cycle. Anyway, yada yada.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it is watching paint dry and keep grinding. But I have come to a, I don't know if it's sin, a point where I can be there when I have that conversation and I'm okay with it. But those moments where, and you don't even have to be Canadian. You just have to be physically in Canada, and you are considered a stakeholder in the built environment, which is one of those stunning things to me that just makes a lot of sense. If you're just physically here, you're considered a stakeholder, you're allowed to comment on proposed code change. That's it's a tough website. It's like, you know, it's in the basement behind the door that says beware of a leopard. Like it's really tough to find the spot, but you can find it if you have a good connection. That helps because these are ungainly websites.
Yeah.
You can also subscribe.
Yes.
To get an email saying there's been a code change. Here's an opportunity for public input.
Yep.
I should find that link. Yeah, I
Just-
should find the link and send that link.
Yeah. For resources on sustainability, there's actually a huge depth and breadth of them through all these historic societies, especially European. Historic England, holy crap, amazing depth and breadth of resources, including a 12-book encyclopedia that's $1,400 and worth every single penny of just how to do all the skilled trades, all of them. It's an amazing, but they have I just downloaded one the other day from Historic England on existing historic. They use historic. Heritage and historic can be the capital H's depending on where you are. Historic England, historic buildings and well-being. It was like a 60-page article. Over in Europe, they have money, and they value existing buildings. They're way different than we do. And so definitely going to them. APT, the Association of Preservation Technologists, huge database, huge resources. They're all on traditional skills. They're all on traditional details. Literally what you were doing. There are resources out there, mountains of it. And they're writing stuff about sustainability. APT, CAP, I'm on the Sustainability Committee for Canadian Association of Preservation Heritage Professionals, pardon me. We started a podcast. I'm the host. It's okay. It's called Capstone. Some of you will get that. And we're talking about sustainability in heritage buildings. And just we're trying to get that word out. We want people to realize that we have skills. Any other questions or things you want to? Well, again, I'm very grateful. And I ended before lunch, so that worked out great.